If you haven't heard, you're going to need a COVID test before you go on a Royal Caribbean cruise. And today, I've got exactly when you should get your test done, so that way you can go on your cruise without any problems. Up next. Hey everyone, it's Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and there's a lot of changes going on in the cruise industry right now, and one of them is you're going to need to get a COVID test before your cruise, and that's generated a lot of questions about when exactly should you get your test done. So to recap, all guests over the age of 2 are required to arrive to the cruise terminal with a negative COVID-19 test, regardless if you're vaccinated or not, prior to boarding on sailings that are 3 nights or longer. Royal Caribbean and all the cruise lines added very similar requirements to add a pre-COVID test even if you're vaccinated because of the Delta variant cases that are on the rise, and as a result, the cruise industry has basically embraced this idea of getting a pre-COVID test. Now, the primary concern for a lot of people is getting a test completed with enough time to get your results before your cruise begins. If you wait too long, you might not have your results in time for the cruise, but if you do the test too early, that doesn't count. The logistics of when and where to get a test before your cruise is a little bit confusing. So today I wanted to talk about what you need to know about getting a COVID-19 test before your cruise so you can get on board without any issues. Let's start off with number 1. When should you get your test done? This is the most confusing part. When is it okay to get one? When can you start getting one? And when is it too late, right? On sailings 3 nights or longer, Royal Caribbean needs you to take your test no more than 3 days before your cruise. So when should you get your test done so results are valid and within that time frame? Basically, Royal Caribbean puts it this way. The day you sail is not one of the days you count. Instead, count backwards from the day before to figure out which day to get your test done. So as an example, if your cruise departs on a Saturday, you could either get your test done on Friday, which would be day 1, Thursday, which would be day 2, or the Wednesday before, which would be day 3. Your best bet is to schedule in advance a test to ensure that you can get your test completed on the day that you want to ensure there's enough time to get the results before you sail. One other note is that Royal Caribbean doesn't care about the 72 hours or anything like that. Some cruise lines do the hours thing. It's really just a day. Don't get too hung up if your COVID test is earlier than your check-in time on the day and you're trying to do it exactly 3 days beforehand. That doesn't matter. It is all about just calendar days before your cruise. So where can you get tested? Depending on where you live, there can be different options available for getting tested. This includes testing sites that have free or maybe have an additional cost to them. Now, keep in mind that Royal Caribbean accepts 2 common types of a COVID-19 test, and that is the PCR test or the rapid antigen test. Royal Caribbean also accepts the Abbott ID Now rapid diagnostic test that is administered by many pharmacies, is an acceptable molecular test, but not the Abbott Binax Now home test. More on that in a little bit. The PCR tests are the ones that takes usually about a day or 2 to come back, while antigen tests, the rapid tests, are available and acceptable, and those are the ones that you can get done in a matter of minutes, usually less than an hour. Many health providers and chain drugstores, including Walgreens, Rite Aid, and CVS, now offer COVID-19 testing for work, travel, and other reasons. All of these offer PCR testing at no additional cost if using insurance or if you fall under some federal programs for those without insurance. In a lot of cases, they don't even ask you for it, but again, your mileage may vary, but keep in mind these are options available to you that you can book in advance. Another option is a service called Passport Health, which has over 100 locations nationwide and is meant for someone who is traveling or going back to school. In addition, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services maintains a list of testing sites per state that you can find on their website where you can be tested, including ones that have no additional cost. In addition to all of that, I know it's very tempting to look for a place that gives you an appointment. I love that as well, and that is definitely the most convenient option, but you should be very aware that it is easy also to get rapid antigen tests or even PCR tests if you go to other locations that do use walk-up services. A lot of urgent care facilities offer drive-up testing where you never have to leave the car. Roll down your window, get swabbed, and be on your way. But the bottom line is don't assume that if you can't get an appointment in places like CVS or Walgreens, that's it, you can't get a test. There are other places out there, and in a lot of cases, what you should do is call in advance to try to get a spot when you want to get your COVID test. Most places will allow some sort of reservation system in advance, like CVS, Walgreens, and Rite Aid allow an online reservation system. But in other cases, you can simply call up the day of, maybe make a same-day reservation, or walk in and be among the first to get there. In most cases, it is first come, first served at a lot of these urgent care locations where you can go in there, get your test, and be on your way. Probably the biggest piece of advice I have regarding trying to get an appointment or getting your test done is don't be complacent. Don't assume. If you can, make a reservation as early as you can. But if you can't, be vigilant. Have a couple of places in mind and go as early as you can on that third day. keeping in mind that you'll have a little bit of backup time. Maybe you can get on day 3, so you get it on day 2 or even day 1, but there are options available to you. In addition, if you're flying to your cruise, you can get the test done in the airport. There's usually facilities for that as well in there. And if all else fails, maybe look for testing sites near your cruise terminal. Again, if you're driving or flying to your cruise port, there are usually CVS and Walgreens locations near the major U.S. cruise ports as well. And no, Royal Caribbean is not offering testing at the actual cruise terminal. This is something you're going to have to do beforehand somewhere outside of the cruise terminal, so something you have to arrange on your own. So how long does it take to get your test results? Depending on the test you take, results can be as many as a few minutes or even a couple hours or days. Antigen tests, otherwise known as sometimes the rapid tests, come back in as little as 30 minutes, and PCR tests usually take longer. PCR tests generally take around 72 hours for results, although some testing sites offer rapid PCR tests that come back much sooner. CVS advertises its PCR test takes typically between 1 to 2 days, and the rapid test is just a matter of hours. In general, you can get the rapid antigen test, which will come back, as I mentioned, usually in about an hour or so, and that is acceptable by Royal Caribbean. The PCR test is a little more accurate, but it does take a little bit longer. So if you're going to get the PCR test, make sure you get it much closer to day 3 than to day 1 of your testing window that you have. There are a few guarantees in general about when exactly you will get your results. I don't think any testing site out there will give any kind of guarantee as when you get it, but taking your test results earlier in the time window before your cruise departs is definitely the safest bet. So once you get your test results, how do you prove to Royal Caribbean that you have it? You simply need to bring a copy of the test results for everybody in your family to the cruise terminal. The test results need to have your name, the date the test was taken, the type of result, and the negative result as well. You got the choice of bringing a printout or a digital copy of your results. Royal Caribbean recommends printing out the results whenever possible, just to speed things up, because you can just hand it to somebody. There's not a phone or anything involved, and I found actually that to be a pretty good recommendation as well. Print it out, but if all you have is the digital copy, that's okay too, because the cruise line will accept the test results presented on your phone. Now, there's one other type of test I didn't talk about, and that is the at-home test. There are a lot of at-home tests that are available, but there's only one specific test that Royal Caribbean will accept. You need to be very specific about this, and that is the Abbott BinaxNOW COVID-19 AG Card Home Test, because that specific test allows you to do the test while being supervised by a medical provider, and there's proper documentation provided with that. There's another test by Abbott BinaxNOW that is self-administered, one you do on your own. That is not acceptable. So really, that's the only one right now that is acceptable. The home tests are an option that's out there. Just make sure you buy the right one. We've got more details about that at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. So if you get your negative test result, you're good to go. If you get a positive test result on your pre-cruise test, you can give Royal Caribbean a call, and they can rework your cruise plans. Not to worry, you're not going to be out here without your money or anything like that. Royal Caribbean is going to work with you to ensure that you're able to be compensated and maybe even rearrange your travel plan. So there's the basics on what you need to know to get a COVID test before your Royal Caribbean cruise. I've done this already once. I've got a couple more cruises coming up in the next couple of weeks. And I got to tell you, it's really not that much more effort to do so. It's one extra step. It is more work, but it's not significant. And it's actually a lot easier than it sounds, especially if you take the time to make a reservation as you get closer to your sail date. And some of those early reservation windows open up for places like pharmacies where you can get a COVID-19 test scheduled before everybody else does it. Doing it at the last minute is really the issue that a lot of people run into. So pre-planning as much as you can is the key to ensure that you get your COVID test and you're able to go on board with the right documentation. Let me know in the comments below your experiences with COVID tests, which ones have worked well for you, any good suggestions on where to get them done. I'd love to know in the comments below. Make sure you like this video, hit that like button. It really does help us out. Subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications. That's that little bell icon so that YouTube lets you know when I have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.